Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are dressed for the occasion and going back to one of the GOATs, one of the JRPG GOATs, Persona 4. I've been holding back on this one, so get cozy because we got a lot to talk about. I am so excited about this because finally Persona 4 Golden is available on Xbox. It's available on Switch. You already could get it on PlayStation Vita at least, but now it's on the consoles. You got it on PC about a couple of years ago. We had it on PS2 for a while, but now it's more relevant and available than ever before. So you may be looking into Persona 4 for the first time. So today I'm here to screech at you as to why this is a must play. Or if you already played it, I'm here to remind you just how great it is. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's not delay any further. We have a lot of Persona 4 to go over. So if you're new here, you're into nostalgic, retrospective content, or you like a little Persona content, I mean, you know, we might have some on the way. I don't know. So consider subscribing. With that, let's get into this because, oh my, did Atlas support Persona 4? Oh my, did they ever? To the nauseating amount for some, but for me, I was like, give me more. I want more. More, dang it. And yeah, I don't even have Persona Q in this bunch, which had Persona 4 characters in it. So there's a lot. What you have here is base Persona 4 on the PS2. You have Vita's Persona 4 Golden, which was its original system before being ported to Steam in 2020. Then you have Persona 4 Dancing All Night, one of the most random but amazing spin-offs in my opinion. And then they had the Arena games, Arena and Arena Ultimax. Arena Ultimax going down as one of the most underrated Arc System games, but we'll talk about that briefly in a little bit. The main focus here is the Persona 4 RPGs, right? Persona 4 on PS2, but more importantly, what you'll be playing, which is Golden. All right, so we got a double complete in-box experience here. Let's get into it, beginning with Persona 4 on PS2. Now, this is a special copy. Why is that? Because you didn't see me take off the seal for this, but I had a brand new copy here, and when I crack it open, fresh plastic. Love it. So this comes with the bonus disc. This is the soundtrack for Persona 4, which this is a wonderful soundtrack, might I add, like one of my favorites in all of gaming. I still jam to this game, and I played this in my senior year of high school, like crazy. But anyway, this manual is awesome. It's got a lot of cool breakdowns in it. There's one defining characteristic to it that I was really happy with. But yeah, of course, like goated manual. Look at the color, the yellow, the prologue. It says, when his parents go to work overseas, the protagonist is sent to live with his uncle in the small country town of Inaba. Shortly after his arrival, a series of bizarre murders begins, where the cause of death is unknown and the bodies are found hanging from high places. It is a pretty mature video game in that regard, but I am a sucker for a murder mystery. If my Danganronpa fanship wasn't anything to go off of, well, now you know. But anyway, goes through all the characters with their portraits where they have their persona beside them. Like you see Chie with Tomoe, you see Yosuke with Jiraiya. Shout out to Yosuke. This dude's such a bro. He's so funny, man. This game is hilarious. Like, that's one of the things I love about it. I cannot play this game without smiling multiple times in a session. Like, it is consistently hilarious. There's this beach scene where Kanji shows up and my man's wearing a Speedo and everyone's like, Kanji, brother, you good? What's going on with that? He's like, it's your basic black. It's such a quotable video game. I love it. This game is hilarious from top to bottom. But anyway, character designs are great. Here you have, of course, how you start the game. This is what I always get into, where I say a lot of these manuals are game design documents, but they're a bit more glorified. But here's the game flow. What I think is the defining trait of Persona is its social system. So they go over the flow of the day. You have daytime, afternoon, and evening, where you can spend that time doing things like going to class, strengthening your social links, as well as various other activities. They even have a whole calendar in Persona. They kind of briefly mention it here with the calendar and weather, as well as holidays where you'll have certain days off. There are different places you can go all over Inaba. These are smaller maps, but there are a lot of things within them, a lot of activities within them, a lot of people you can see within them, so it's pretty cool. They break down the TV world, which is where all the dungeons and all the real JRPG style gameplay is held. They go through the encounters, things you'll find in there like treasure chests, the command menu, leveling up and obtaining your personas and how you strengthen them. And that's not even getting into afterwards, which is the battles and then fusing them, which is a whole other aspect of the game. Oh, I'm sorry, they get into actually how you get new personas, which is kind of like Pokemon without the throwing the ball. Like you finish a battle and you have a set of cards that you can select from. And so you choose sometimes like restore health. Sometimes you choose more money. Sometimes you choose more XP. In this case, you can also choose persona. Whereas in Persona 3, they would do like card shuffling. And it was just like, why? I beat a tough battle. Like just reward me. So Persona 4 built off of that a little bit. Now the Velvet Room, now the fusing of personas where you could do a normal spread, which is combining 2 together. You could do a triangle spread, 3 together. And there was even a fusion forecast where like the weather would determine certain fusion outcomes and that you would have to be aware of those for certain things you wanted to take advantage of. So it was really cool in that regard. There's actually a trophy or achievement attached to completing the compendium that you should be aware of. And then a fusion table. This is what's crazy about it. A whole fusion table to find like where you can make a magician, a justice, Hierophant, etc., etc. And then what I thought was the most interesting part is after the skills and items in the game is actually a glossary, and it goes through some of the mythology of the game because all the persona are based off mythology, as you'd guess. The honorifics, because there's a lot of Japanese terminology here, even though there is an English voice cast. And again, the glossary here, like they go over things such as Golden Week and what that is in Japan, what hot springs are, what a kotatsu is, etc., etc. So I thought that was really cool. And then here is the staff that worked on the game, and then the soundtrack and what songs come with the bonus disc. So that is a complete in-box copy of original Persona 4. Then you have Golden, which, as you already know, boom, completely empty. Love that. But this is one of those games I just consider, if you own a Vita, it's a must-own. You have to have it in your collection. Highly sought after video game, especially because they didn't reprint the physical copies for Persona 4 Golden for whatever reason on these new consoles. They did it for Persona 5, but not for Golden. I don't know, but I wish they did. So right now, this is the only physical copy of 4 Golden you can get as it stands. I hope they change that. But the back says, one of the biggest and best RPGs of all time is back with a larger story, new characters and events, online dungeon rescue system, and more. And then this text here is really small, but it goes over the same thing that's on the back of this box, which I just realized now. Oh my God, I opened the manual. I didn't even go through it. So here it says, tune in, turn on, drop dead. Okay. A rumor is going around school that by looking at a TV screen at 12 a.m. on a rainy night, the face of your soulmate will be revealed. But is that all? A chain of murders appears to be connected to the rumor, and you and your team of Persona users must brave the mysterious TV world before another schoolmate dies, with enhanced social links which began in Persona 3. It says development of friendships is integrated with traditional RPG gameplay. Master teammate social links to earn greater support in combat. Team control. This game, well, I shouldn't say this game. The original version of this game did not let you do that, so you just had to trust the NPCs to do their thing on their own. Thank you, AI, for all the lost battles. And then CD included, as I talked about. So that is a complete in-box copy set of Persona 4. Of course, you also have these games here, but we're gonna, for time's sake, not go through all of that. Let's talk about one of the best of all time and why I absolutely love it. It's the social system, man. Like, to me, that is the defining trait of Persona. It is the social system. It is a fantastic turn-based RPG on top of it. That's sort of the icing on the cake, but if I'm looking at something that I look at this game and go, okay, this is what separates it from the pack. It is the masterful social system. So as we went through in the manual, what you saw was a day system. So every single day, pretty much, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna answer maybe a series of questions, and when you answer these questions, your stats are gonna go up for your protagonist. These are like your social skills, and they'll allow you to access different activities around the map, which is really cool, because then those can earn you money, they can earn you new social links, all new items, etc., etc. And so there's something happening differently every day in Inaba, and you can see it all in one playthrough if you follow the Golden Route guide, which has you going to dungeons on specific days, has you going to school on specific days, has you doing X social link on certain days. It is very thorough. So you can see it all in one playthrough, but you have to be precise, like completing dungeons in one day, etc., etc. But point being is this social system is special because what happens is you have these character building visual novel style events built into combat progression. So let's say you're hanging out with Yosuke, you're broing out with him saying like, all right, what's going on, dude? And you're going through his personal arc. And as you're talking with him, you're learning more about him, and with each rank, you're going to unlock gameplay buffs. Now, what I'll say is, hindsight 2020, if you play Persona 5 Royal and you're going to go back to 4 Golden, or, oh man, 3 even, you're going to have a great time, but you're going to notice that, of course, things have evolved since then big time, specifically in the dungeon design, which we'll get into in a little bit, but really in those social links, like I think Persona 5 with the baton pass mechanic and the defending mechanics and the really unique traits that they would attach to each character made those social links on a gameplay front more worthwhile. Even if I thought some of the stories, like I love Makoto as a character in Persona 5, but her social link is kind of whack in my opinion. So you miss a little bit of the good storytelling, but you get really good gameplay buffs. I thought I loved soundtracks before I played Persona. I really did. But then I played Persona 4 and I just can't stop tapping my foot, nodding my head. It's so good, man. It's so good. It's such a bop. That's just the best way to define it. It's a bop. And it makes no sense. You're in a quiet, quaint, peaceful, whatever word you want to use to describe it, country town in Japan, right? So you think it's going to be like a little like drum or something, a little more thematic. And they're like, nah, let's get the pop going, man. Let's just get it rocking in here. And they just put out this certified banger of a soundtrack. So this is all running in the background while you're interacting with your party members or non-party members even, and learning their personal arcs. I think it helps that the writing in this game is so strong. If I were to ever compliment anything about Persona's writing, it would be the human element. It's not written like a, I'd say, BioWare RPG where characters are very poetic, very well-spoken, sometimes even too well-spoken in my opinion. Persona has your uhs and ums, the dots, the moments of pause to think, the kind of bantering off course before getting back on course. They do such a wonderful job of just capturing the human element of conversation and making it not feel like you're wasting time. And I think it's because Persona 4 has a great comedic element to it. Like normally I'm one of those people who not really huge on comedy in games because if you make it timely, it just ages horribly. And if you miss, you're just ruining parts of the game. You know, High on Life was one that was so out there, it clicked with a lot of people. I liked the comedy in that game. I didn't like the gameplay. But with Persona 4, because it's youthful, playful banter and immaturity at times, it's just hilarious. You know, just these situations this squad gets themselves into, but yet they're like the heroes too. It's like this is our protagonist, like this is our hero group. It's just ridiculous, but you got to remember, like they're young high school kids. So I think when you meld all that together, the social system, you meld together the music, the funniness of the game, and of course the endearment of the game. When it stops its hilarity and says, all right, serious moment. It's like a switch flips in you. You go, okay, I'm listening. You have my full undivided attention. And I love that because very few games can command that almost subconscious respect that you give it where you're like, all right, I'm ready to laugh. Okay, hold on. I'm ready to feel things now. And I don't want to specify what, but like this game has some truly sad moments and it's got a wonderful voice cast that was sort of at like the birth, if you will, of so many prosperous actors. I mean, you have Troy Baker in here as Tanji. You have Yuri Lowenthal, like yes, Spider-Man, and Sasuke, and all these amazing anime characters as Yosuke. I mean, that's incredible. Laura Bailey as Rise. Like, it is a star-studded cast, man. Like, to have all these actors and actresses in this game again would cost so much money that it's just one of those moments where you just have them all together. They're all so talented and reprising their roles perfectly. It truly is a moment, in my opinion. So that is why the social system sticks out to me. It may not be riveting to many people, but I like the idea of like, okay, do I want to hang out with a friend? Do I want to go to the Aya Noodle Bowl bar and just see if I can like finish the rainy day bowl challenge? Do I want to go hang out with someone and work on sports? Do I want to study instead? Do I want to read a book? Do I want to do crafting and make money? What do I want to do? All those options and how they progress skills out of combat, but then they make them worthwhile in combat, whether it's getting money to buy items or again, those social links and getting perks to level up your relationships, whatever it may be. It just clicks with me, man. And it's funny because it clearly clicks with a lot of developers. And what blows my mind is we are in such a copycat industry, right? Like we live and breathe these games that are doing the same exact thing as one another. And I see these games like, I'll take, for example, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Fire Emblem Three Houses is a good game, but it tries to add these Persona elements to it. And instead of just taking from the rule book, you don't have to copy it directly, but Persona has a perfect infrastructure, in my opinion, like the daily system, how it's broken up, how you tackle it, and all you have to do as a developer is change what is within that, because the framework there exists. I mean, again, we live in a day and age where everyone had to have their Breath of the Wild game, their crazy first-person shooter, the crazy multiplayer mode during the 360 PS3 gen. Like, you get all these copycats every single generation, but when people come to Persona and try to do their own social link system, they just mess it up. Like, I played the Caligula effect. I remember Trails of Cold Steel tried to do a similar Persona-like system. I'm like, what don't you all get? Like, what don't you all get? Just copy the infrastructure and build within it, but they just don't. They don't, and it's why Persona is just on a mountaintop for so many people, because they just do the right things and just keep building within that infrastructure. It's fantastic. So I wish more games did it. I wish more games did it right, but it is just a wonderful system nonetheless that defines this game. Now, what's great is beyond that, it's funny that it's almost like a Pokemon game, and that would make sense because actually the original Persona came before Pokemon, where it was about capturing demons. It wasn't until Persona 3 that you got the social links added into the game, but you're gonna crawl through these dungeons, and this is again where if you play Persona 5 Royal first, keep in mind, this one could be a poorly aged part of the game for you. I don't think it's as bad as Tartarus and Persona 3, but you're gonna miss your baton passes. You're gonna miss the diversity within the palaces. Like, it's very much just ascending floors, ascending floors, ascending floors to get to the final floor within the dungeon. And one of them in particular has a pretty bad puzzle. So the dungeons here aren't, I would ever say, bad. Like, they just exist. They're serviceable, but they're not great anymore like maybe they once were. And especially because you have now that experience of Persona 5 Royal under your belt, it can influence how you may feel about the dungeons. But the combat is still strong. You're still gonna target enemy weaknesses. You're gonna do your once more follow-up attacks. Your protagonist is still the GOAT who can just swap personas whenever he wants by flipping the card and bringing out another one and just really just running down every other enemy in the room. It's very empowering. You can control, unlike in Persona 3 FES and Persona 3, you can control your party members, which is really nice to have. But it does miss some of those elements for Persona 5 in hindsight. If you have the option to, if you can go 4 to 5, oh, do that, and you will absolutely adore this franchise, just like many of us do. Not that I think you'll hate it otherwise, but you might just get less enjoyment out of Persona 4, and I want you to love this game quite like I do. Now, I showed here during this video Persona 4 for PS2 and Persona 4 Golden. Let's just talk a bit about the differences here. One of the new things is Marie. So Marie is a new social link that you have to do to achieve this new ending of the game. They also add in various new events, and more importantly is this kind of online interaction tracker that I found very helpful when I played it on Vita for the first time. You see, if you've never played Persona before, you can get overwhelmed pretty quickly, like there's no doubt about it. But what I love about what they added in Golden is if you were to press, I think it's the select button, it would actually pop up a bunch of activities that different players online did on this specific day. And what's great about that is it just kind of has the game tell you a list of what's available during that day. Not that you can't just go around and find out for yourself, but it lets you make those choices a little bit quicker. And also, if you get stuck in a dungeon, you can do an online request and someone can come save your butt. Now, as I said when I was reading the manual earlier, is you're gonna crawl through these dungeons and you're gonna beat up Persona, and then you're gonna have this kind of card game, if you will. And by winning these battles, you can pretty much get like Pixie, for example, and you can add Pixie to your set of Persona that are with you. Now, you have a limit that'll increase throughout the game, and eventually you can go back to the Velvet Room and you can start fusing. And that's where you start to see the payoff of the social links, because let's say I will go back to Yosuke. I spent a lot of time with Yosuke, and you have a high rank in the Magician Arcana. What this means is that you're gonna get a big amount of bonus experience, and it kind of lets you break the game if you're smart with it. So let's say you fuse together two Persona, and it turns out to be a Magician Arcana. Now, typically in Persona, let's say I was to go through the same thing I was talking about where you get Pixie from a battle. You can't get a Persona that's a higher level than the protagonist at that moment in time. So there's a limit. However, if you fuse one, you get bonus experience from that social link, and that experience can push you past your current level. So what that means is you could be level 18 and fuse a Persona, it may end up being level 25. This is fantastic because then you can go in the dungeon and absolutely destroy enemies and feel like you're really ahead of the curve. So if you invest in its systems, it is always giving you a return on that investment. And I think that's so important to point out there. But there's also the excitement factor. Let me just put these two together and see what happens. Oh, wow, it's a monster I've never seen before. And I get to add all these different skills to them and customize them. It's not just like they're preset. You can make them magic users, you can make them physical users, and you can switch them based off what you need in that moment in time. So there's a lot of customization to this game, and I think this is where the RPG mechanics really flex their muscles. Because otherwise, like, it's just your standard, weapon, armor, accessory type of equipment loadout. It's the personas that really define the user. Now, for those who haven't played it, the rest of your party members don't get different personas, but instead, as you go through their social links and finish them up, their personas will evolve. Think of a Pokemon evolving. And I think that's really exciting. I think it's Persona 5 Royal that's the first one to do 3 evolutions. I just want to go over the story briefly because I know I focused a lot on the gameplay here. The story is one of those where I sit there and go, just experience it for yourself. Nothing I say could probably ever do it justice. Not that it's going to be this mind-bending story, but it's going to be a game that I promise you, if you go from start to finish, it will be a game that when those credits roll, you're going to get that feeling of like, I don't want to leave quite yet. And that's a really special feeling that a game, either consciously or subconsciously, depending on how invested you realize you are, kind of pulls you in. And it's that wholesome level of interaction between characters like Nanako and Dojima, and just seeing how the protagonist gets along with them, and Nanako calling you big bro, and everything that you and the party go through in this game, plus the music. When it's time to call it curtains, it is that moment of like, man, this is so stinky, man. I want to stay. And it's funny because the reason I sing the praises of this game so much is when I beat Persona 4 Golden for the first time in high school, I remember I thought I beat it. I'll just say there comes a moment where you have to make a choice. I made the wrong choice. I got an ending at like 50 hours in the game, and I was like, that was incredible. One of my favorite games ever. I sung the praises of it for years. And I come back, so I'm like, it's time for a replay. And I'd seen, let's just say, a part with snow in the game. And I'm like, oh, was that Golden? And I look it up. Nope, that's in the base game, Maddie. Did I just miss a whole chunk of the game? I did. I absolutely did. And I couldn't believe it. I loved a game that I only saw 2/3 of. So I go back and I do this full like 80, almost 90 hour playthrough. I'm like, this is incredible. I love the game and I missed like 1/3 of it. And it was fantastic. So that is kind of my vote of confidence to you. Like, I played 2/3 of it and walked away going, that was one of the best games I ever played. Like, I just loved it on a systems level. The story was great, but I felt like an idiot afterwards, realizing like, oh, this wasn't the whole story, huh? Crazy, some critic I am. But it was like an eye-opening moment of like just how great it is. So going back, seeing it from top to bottom, fantastic. What I'll say is when you get to that choice, you'll know it. Maybe look up so you don't make the mistake I did. Look up who you should select in that moment, and then enjoy the rest of the game. But that's everything I have to say on Persona 4 Golden. It's a fantastic game, really is that amazing, and please do yourself a favor. Please play this game. With that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.